Hey guys, today we're going to be doing some patch analysis because of course we got a pretty big patch yesterday. Of course, like lots of things with like the Rooster event for the Chinese New Year and CTF and all that. But we're really going to be focusing on just the balance changes because we don't get actually that many patches with significant balance changes. Like we've had 5 big of those meaningful patches in 5 months since like the start of season 2 back in like September 1st. So really not that much, right? So we're gonna go into those changes and just discuss kind of like some thoughts and my first impressions after seeing just a few hours of scrims last night. Yeah, of course these patches were already on PTR, but since you don't necessarily know on PTR what's going to be going live and what is not going to make it, like we did have like a few changes compared to like the PTR patch from the beginning of January. So we're going to jump right in. Okay, so first, Antibiotic grenade effect duration has been reduced from 5 seconds to 4 seconds, and healing boost on allies has been decreased by 50%. Okay, so the 50% thing, it looks pretty big when you say it like that. Like 50%, holy shit, that's a huge nerf. But it's not that huge of a nerf, okay? Let's go with like a simple heal combo where you throw the grenade and then you hit like 3 shots onto your tank, right? So it used to do 100 healing with the grenade itself, and then with the 100% healing boost on allies, right? Anna's base healing is 75 when you're just shooting like that, right? So it'd do twice that, so 150. So you'd go nade 100 healing, then 150, then another shot 150, and then again 150. So in total, that combo with like 1 nade and 3 shots would be 550 damage, right? 100, 150, 150, 150. Okay, now instead of doing 150 per shots on those boosted allies, right, you're gonna be doing 107. Is my math correct? Half of 75 is 3. No, it's a bit more than that. Okay, but it's basically okay. It's 75 plus half of 75, which is 37. So you add that, and yeah, it's not good to do math once you start recording. But basically, it's not huge, right? It's about 110, right? So that same combo is gonna be 100 and then 110, 110, 110. Okay, so not like, yeah, sure, in like quad tank situations, you're not gonna be as good at like sustaining all 4 of those tanks, but in like a standard 2 tank composition or even in triple tank, it's not going to be like felt that much. The 1 second nerfed here is actually maybe more significant because it closes your window of opportunity for where you can get those enhanced heals, right? So if during that time, like you miss a shot and then you still had 5 seconds to like get another shot back in, right, now it's going to be a bit shorter. Okay, so overall it's less. It's definitely a nerf. It's definitely less healing that you can do on one target that like your tank gets caught and then you're just saving him by just constantly healing. It's not going to be as much, but it's not a huge nerf. Okay, a more significant consequence of this is actually when you're self-healing, because what you used to do when you got dove by like a Winston or something, you would just throw your grenade at your feet. You would get that 100 health from the grenade itself, and then if you had a bit of coordination with your Lucio, right, he would heal amp during that time, and so you were getting twice as much healing from that heal amp. Okay, heal amp is like 36 heal per second, so you double that to like 72 heal per second, right? So anytime you were in Winston jumping on an Anna, well, first you needed to like dodge that sleep, but even then, when you were doing damage, it felt like you weren't doing anything because she was just getting out healed simply because she naded and then Lucio heal amped, right? So that's going to cut that down a bit, and therefore it should make her a bit more vulnerable to like dive compositions a tiny bit. And also, once again, the duration is going to be a bit shorter, right? Something that is also kind of big, but I don't know as of now to like what extent, is still, again, the 1 second change. This is going to change anti-healing, right? A lot of people have been complaining about anti-healing. right? When you're purple and you can't heal, well, it's going to be reduced by 1 second, right? So it's just 1 second, but that's the 20% nerf, right? So that's pretty significant. Speaking on the topic of anti-healing, right? A lot of people have been complaining about that, saying like, yeah, anti-healing's not fun, it's broken, all that kind of stuff. I think the consequence of having Ana in the meta and in the game overall for a few months now, and I think people have just been gotten used to being overhealed so much by her crazy healing that sometimes they would get out of position and they could still survive that just based on Ana's healing. And so when you got anti-healed, it felt like you were losing that crazy healing, which you are, of course. But I mean, if you're out of position, you should be punished, right? So I don't necessarily see that as too much of a problem. The big problem with the nade overall is not just the anti-healing. It's just that it was doing too much. It was just too versatile a tool, right? At the same time, right, if there was like a big fight, a big clump, and you just run inside and just heal the ground, you could, at the same time, just by pressing one button, you could heal your allies, heal yourself, heal boost your allies, heal boost yourself, and then do damage and anti-heal anyone that got like in the AoE, right? It's like just one press of a button could do all of that, which just was too much. But finally, we're starting to nerf a tiny bit. I don't think this is enough. I don't think this is going to be enough to push her out of the meta. She still has too many tools to really be useful in a team. But it is at least a tiny step in the right direction, in my opinion. Okay, so now let's move on to Deva. So they changed how her health and armor worked, right? She used to have 600, since she was buffed, 600 overall health, 200 of which were just normal HP, and then 400 armor, and so that they just kind of switched that up, right? They also changed how her damage works, right? They increased the number of bullets per shots, but reduced the damage, the damage of those bullets. So it used to be 8 times 3, okay, 24, and now it's just 22. When she got buffed, they didn't do anything to her damage. What they did was they just increased her mobility so that when the Deva flew onto a target, right, before that she would just kind of fly there, start shooting, but she was so slow, people would just run away, and then because her damage is shotgun based, right, so there's a spread to it. If you're far away, you just don't take damage, too much damage at some point, right? So just increasing her mobility while shooting by a tiny bit really changed how much damage she could actually output, right? So the consequence was actually a damage gain based on like the mobility buff. So here, this is just an attempt to kind of slightly tune this down. As they say here, it will result in a small overall decrease in damage. Yeah, probably. Is that really significant? I don't think too much. The health thing, however, is pretty significant. Okay. The reason why we had so much Deva was, well, yeah, overall she was pretty strong, but also because we had Soldier, who was like one of the strongest DPSs, right? And so you wanted that defense matrix to kind of shut down his ults and all that kind of thing, right? And you could pretty much just kind of jump on him, defense matrix, shoot him, you know, and he was like, he had to kind of pop down his healing station, try to shoot you. And it was kind of like a hard 1v1. And sometimes you could actually kind of bully a soldier off of a high ground or something like that, right? And that armor actually played a huge part in that, because how armor works is that if you're taking damage that is more than 10 damage, right? It just removes 5. Right? If you're taking less than 10, it just halves the damage, right? So if you're taking like shotgun stuff, so like 7 damage is just gonna have that, and right. Soldier did 20 damage per shots, right? So it's above 10, so you just reduce that by 5. So anytime you were shooting in armor, instead of doing 20 damage up close, you were doing, well, 15, right? So that's actually a 25% decrease in damage just because you're shooting armor, right? So that was huge. It was pretty hard for the soldier to deal with that. Now you're going to get way quicker into the normal HP, right? It used to be 400 out of 600 overall for armor. So that means during 2/3 of her HP, your damage was reduced by 25%. Now it's only going to be 1/3 of her overall HP where you get that reduction. And because it's the start of her HP, right? Any kind of initial damage that she takes, like any Helix rocket, any kind of like Farah rocket, or like Fire Strike if she doesn't block it, or anything, right? It's gonna remove armor first, right? So that 200 armor is maybe only gonna be like 150, just 100 when she's actually in front of the soldier, right? So very, very quickly now, soldiers, they can get into that real HP right here and start really doing damage to divas. So you can't bully soldiers anymore. You can't just at any time jump on them and just force them off of the high ground. So it's very significant. It's a very significant change. Of course, defense matrix is unchanged this patch, so it's still going to be really good to counter ultimates. But you have to be like with your team more and only go when he's ulting. So overall, this makes just Deva a lot weaker versus soldiers. A lot weaker. So it's not so much that she's going to be terrible now. I think good Deva players can still play her just fine. But she'll be just punished more. And because of that, I think a lot of players, if we're talking competitive scene, which of course is the focus of these videos, a lot of people are just going to be like, why play Deva? I'll just play Zarya, okay? We had, with the nerfs to Zarya and then the buffs to Deva, a lot of people went from playing Zarya to a bit more Deva focused. And I think now that trend is probably going to be reversed in competitive play, where people are just overall going to be preferring Zarya. So yeah, pretty significant change to the meta. Now this is one of those changes that is really going to affect multiple champions, multiple heroes. Okay, because just Deva being weaker means Soldier is way stronger now because he's not necessarily going to have Divas in his face, right? Deva is still okay to block his ults, but because Deva is weaker, people don't pick Deva, then all of a sudden there's no Deva in the game. Right, so then nanotech visors are incredibly strong. So yeah, this is very, very significant for the meta. All right, let's move on. Lucio, you can now wall ride backwards. It's not really relevant at all. Like, I don't really see a situation where before that you would have been able to like do something. Oh, because you would have been able to wall ride backwards. I don't really see that. Like, maybe for like some crazy Lucio mains, they want to like wall ride everywhere, they're going to see the difference. But like in a scrim or match setting, where you're just like shot calling and maybe wall riding a tiny bit to escape or just to get one nice boop or something, I don't think we're going to see any changes based on that. Okay, this is another big one. The Roadhog changes, of course, Hook 2.0 as they've called it. Basically, they changed these line of sight checks. So now you're gonna get less bullshit hooks, of course, when you get hooked, but you were kind of out of sight already. So it's gonna, like, when you hook, it's gonna check back if you're still in line of sight of the Roadhog. And if you're not, then it's gonna break the hook and it's gonna release, right? So all those kind of bullshit hooks that were due to favor the shooter mechanics, they should be gone now, which is probably a good thing. However, because they've changed how the targets are pulled towards the Roadhog, you get way more consistency when you do hit a hook. So it's weaker for like high ground hooks that you're not going to hit anymore, right? Or you're going to hit, but it's going to break. But when you do hook someone, it's going to put them in a better spot in front of you every single time. So as a consequence, as people have been one-shotting Reapers, Maze, you know, those targets that had 250 HP, And even Zarya's apparently, because like if she's right in front of you and you get enough pellets into her head, then with a combo you can one-shot her apparently. I've seen it like once or twice, but it's a bit harder to pull off than of course on a Mei or Reaper. So this is not too much of a nerf. I feel like Roadhog is still in a pretty good place in my opinion. Yeah, some of those hooks are going to break now, and yeah, there's probably still some bugs going on that in my opinion are probably going to be fixed soon, but just way more consistency when you do hit one of those hooks to guarantee that that person dies. One of the byproducts, however, of this change on Deva, however, if we do see more Zarya play, that means potentially more people saved by bubbles when they do get hooked. Or just bubbles blocking hooks, even just initially. So that could be in the overall meta, even if Roadhog is still in a good place, if all of a sudden everybody plays Zarya, you are going to feel that change a tiny bit. Also one thing, Anna, sure, we said she's still strong, still really strong. However, since people have already been kind of mixing in a bit of Zenyatta, right? And she is a tiny bit weaker. I think those teams that were already using Zen quite a bit are going to want to use it again, a bit more even, right? So that could be another consequences to deal with Roadhogs. So without Divas in the game, Soldier, as we said, he might be unopposed. If people decide to go off of Anna for a tiny bit and go for Zen, then all of a sudden you're a Roadhog, you get discorded, and that Soldier kind of shreds you, right? So like Roadhog might feel some changes this patches, well, some some changes in his play rate just because of like what else is going on in the meta instead of just like his changes right here. Final change, Sombra, hack cooldown reduced from 12 seconds to 8, and the time it takes to hack a target has been decreased from 1 second to 0.8. These two changes are huge, right? These numbers doesn't seem like much. Maybe this is 33% decrease. This is a 20% decrease, right? When you put it in percentage, it's like pretty huge, right? Initially, if you've seen my video about Sombra when she was released, I said like she has really a bad sign, that kind of thing. I just thought that her strengths were just crazy, and I still think they are. But she did have some of these weaknesses, right? Which were her gun that feels kind of iffy at times, her hack right click that was kind of like, it was hard to hack people in the middle of combat, that kind of thing, right? So because of these weaknesses, we've still not seen Sombra completely conquer the meta, right? These weaknesses have still held her a tiny bit back. And I thought, still think that with some changes to those weaknesses, she might just overtake completely the meta due to the strengths of how fast she can build her ultimate by hacking health packs and by just how strong EMP actually is. So is this enough? Is this enough to completely be the Sombra meta now? Maybe. It's hard to tell, but you can feel the difference when you're playing Sombra from like the 1 second to like 0.8, right? It's much faster. So all those combos where you just kind of like stealth in, infiltrate in, go behind the team, hack the Reinhardt, then they don't have a shield, and then your Reinhardt can just earth shatter, that kind of thing. Now it's just much more easy to execute, right? The cooldown reduction, a lot of times you'd hack a health pack, put your translocator down, go into the enemy team, go behind them, do some kind of stuff, but you still had to wait a few seconds before you can hack again. Now you're just going to be able to hack like 4 seconds faster. It's a really, really big change. Is it enough? Time will tell, right? It's just, I still think not enough players have really picked her up. When they do, however, we're going to see her pop up like quite a bit, I think. So that's it for today. We've kind of gone through these thoughts. Of course, these are just like initial thoughts. things can obviously change based on like tiny changes to fix a bug here and there, but that's what I've seen from just the few scrims from PTR last week and from just live yesterday. So I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you next time.